We use these in several places now. So once we know how to use them. So component properties, how to configure the component with properties and how we can reuse it. Conditional rendering is nothing but according to the situation, a component can render different content. It can have different behaviors. So after understanding that, today we will see about the component related React hooks. This React hooks, what is it? Actually, React hook concept, and there is another concept called life cycle hooks. Component life cycle hooks is different and React hooks are different. That means in React, two topics may confuse you. One is component life cycle hooks and React hooks. What is difference? I will tell you. Actually, React hooks. So hook is a function. Hook is a function used as a service for component. Hook is a function used as service for component. Actually, hook is just like a function. It is a function. What is meant by service? It is used as a service. What is a service? I hope previously once I explained that. What is a service? A service is a predefined business logic. It is a predefined business logic which you can inject and use in any application. It's a predefined business logic. That means actually the hierarchy I told you, suppose we usually have values and functions. These values and functions, a set of values and functions are kept in a factory. They are kept in a factory. Generally in libraries, factory is a collection of related functions. For example, you have math. It contains all mathematical functions. You have like string, array, date. These are all considered as factories. We call them as math factory, string factory, and array factory, like that. And usually these factories are injected into a service. The factories are injected into a service. And that means a service contains predefined business logic. That means it contains some ready-made functionality. And this functionality usually we inject and use in our component. That means different types of services we inject into the components and use them. For example, you designed a login screen, and in a login screen, you want to prevent that login to be used by robots. That means robot should not use that login, because online we have a threat. Robots can log in, robots can register onto our website, and they can increase the load. Then how to prevent robots? You designed a login. How to prevent robots? We use CAPTCHA. We use CAPTCHA to prevent robots. CAPTCHA is used to verify whether the user is a human or a robot. So CAPTCHA, if anybody asks, like, do you know how to write program for CAPTCHA? That's a wrong question, because CAPTCHA is not a program to write. It's an artificial intelligence program which verifies whether the user is a human or robot based on the keystrokes, mouse movements, and it's not a program that somebody writes. Then how you will use a CAPTCHA? It is provided as a service. It is provided as a service. That means built in, already the design. You just inject and use in your application. That means you don't write an artificial intelligence program. Already there are written. You have to just inject and use. Applications are built with components. Components related functionality is defined with a lot of services. In component also, we don't write everything. Lot of concept we bring from services. We inject from services. These hooks work like a service. For example, if you have to create a state for a component by yourself, it's difficult. Then what you are doing? You are using a use state hook which creates a state, maintains a state. Now, how it is working, somebody might have built it. Somebody have built that in such a way that it can manage state. If you have to build like that, it will take a lot of time. They built it and given to you. You are just injecting and using. So hooks are services. For example, you want CAPTCHA. Suppose, I hope you people know here, uh, so many CAPTCHA services are there. We have a reCAPTCHA. Yeah. So many CAPTCHA services are there. I'm giving reCAPTCHA. This is Google's reCAPTCHA. That means Google provides this reCAPTCHA. So what is it? Nothing but if you are developing an application, you want CAPTCHAs in your application, Google will give you. And you see, what is it? reCAPTCHA is a free service that protects your site from spam and abuse. That means it will uses advanced risk analysis techniques to tell humans and bots apart. And this you cannot write. So it is already written, just you have to use. You tell these people which technology you belong to. Java, .NET, PHP, Python, web, general web. They will give you a library for that. Java CAPTCHA library, .NET CAPTCHA library, PHP CAPTCHA library. You just inject it and use it. That means, for example, you are designing a website. In that, user can register and can use the website. Without registering, he cannot. And users are not interested in registering. Then how you will satisfy both of them? User don't want to register. You don't want to give access without register. How? Then you can ask users that, okay, use your Gmail ID to log in. Do you know what it is called as? If a website is using some other logins in it, what that service is called as? That service is called as OpenID. And this is a service. You go to Facebook, they will give you OpenID. You go to Gmail, they will give you OpenID. Just you have to get the request. They will give you a key. That means they will give you an authorization key and put that in your project. Then you can allow your users to log in with their Gmail account. So can you verify their Gmail accounts in your website? It's not possible. It is through a service. So that means an application is built with components, and components related logic is injected through various services. So that every logic you don't need to write. There are so many logics written, we have to just use. So service is a predefined business logic, so which you can inject and use in your application. Service is a predefined business logic which you can inject and use in your application. So generally components are designed by using these services. Actually means general hierarchy, I will tell you. Usually what happens, we have a React app. This is our React application. The React application is usually built with what? React application is built with some components. It is built with components. React app is built with components. Actually, we know that component is a combination of markup. It is a combination of styles and scripts. But everything through script you have to write, it's difficult. Then usually what happens is we use services. We have different types of services. Various types of services will be there. One service for one purpose, another service for another purpose. Different types of services will be there. Now what happens is according to the requirement, so this service will be injected into the component. Which service they want, they will inject it into the component. So the components are built with set of services. But as I told you, these services are coming from another place. These services are coming from where? Factory. Factory contains the functions and values. In some experience interviews, they may ask, why don't you use this factory then directly? Why you are injecting in a service and using a service? If you are looking for some functions, factory already have functions. Why don't you use the factory directly? Why you are using service? Remember, this question is not at all for any fresher, because a fresher never knows the word factory. Even few people with 3-4 years experience also might not heard about the word factory until or unless they are involved in building libraries. But at a little experience level, these words are used like factory because they know how libraries are built. So libraries are built with factories, services and all. Then at that level they may ask like, why can't you use a factory directly? Why you are using services? Factories we cannot use directly because factory uses a single call mechanism and a service uses a singleton mechanism. Singleton. This is at a high level because single call, singleton, like they are design patterns. Usually at very experienced level only developer knows about design patterns. Few different design patterns. So single call, singleton means what? Single call means whenever you need a function, you have to create an object. Through that object, you have to access the function. You want 10 times a function, you need 10 times to create an object. Every time you need a function, you need an object reference. But singleton means object is created for first request, and the same object will be used across any number of requests. Do you know how your use state, use effects will work? They load on first request and they will be available across any number of requests because they are services. They use a singleton pattern. In software programming, like any object oriented programming, you will come across with the word singleton. Singleton means design a class in such a way that it can have only one object. Generally for a class, how many objects you can create? Any number of. But if you designed a class so that only one object can be created, then that is called singleton. In any OOP programming, this concept is general. So service uses a singleton mechanism. So service uses singleton pattern. Singleton pattern. Singleton means object created for first request, and the same is used across multiple requests. That is actually singleton pattern. So hooks work like services. And important, service is controlled using service is controlled using it is controlled using two components. One is provider and another injector. There will be two components, one provider and injector. Service is controlled by the two components, the provider and injector. So what is this point? What is the provider? What is injector like concept here? So what are these two components are nothing but actually provider is responsible for locating an object, locating a service value or function in memory. It is responsible for locating a service value or function in memory. That means what service will do? It loads some values and functions. And whether those values and functions are available or not, that is located by provider. Provider will first look for the values in the memory. And if the values not found, then provider will show a message that this dependency not found, that dependency not found. So if it finds the values and functions in memory, then it gives to injector. Injector is responsible for injecting values into component, values or functions into component. So provider is responsible for locating them. That means it is responsible for finding them. And injector is responsible for injecting the values. So every service uses these two components. Actually, the mechanism of locating and injecting. So the mechanism of locating a value in memory and injecting into component is known as dependency injection. So DI mechanism, dependency injection mechanism. So locating a value in memory and injecting the value into component, this process is actually known as dependency injection. So technically this dependency injection is present everywhere. Everywhere. Every concept in OOP, object oriented module based approach, it uses dependency. If you are using a module system, that means it is using a dependency injection. That means what happens, you are trying to use a component, but you haven't imported the component. Then what compiler shows error? Compiler shows the error that the dependency is missing because it needs a dependency and that is not injected. Then how it will work? That means every object-oriented programming works with the mechanism of dependency injection, which uses modules, functions, classes. They work with a mechanism called dependency injection. So technically, dependency injection depends on these two components, the provider and an injector. Majority of the services work with this mechanism only. And actually hook is a service. So now we will learn how we can create such hooks. What is the point about React is it provides ready-made hooks developed by different communities, third parties. Actually, original React community has designed only few hooks, but people use various hooks depends on different third parties they work. For example, you have used useFormic. It is not a React community hook. You used useFormic, na? It is not a React community hook. It's not a React community hook. It is a hook that is developed by somebody, third party. That is the reason when you go to companies, you will see lot of hooks they are using. When you Google for it, you will not find anything about it. Why? Because that is a hook designed by them according to their requirement. Even you Google for it, you will not find any answer for that because there is no hook by that name. They developed by for their reasons. So you will find such hooks. We call them as custom hooks. That means you can create hooks and you can use for your business requirements. Majority people do like that. That's the reason you will be confused when somebody says, "Do you know this hook?" If React has developed some hooks, they have a standard list in their official community. They have some 5-7 hooks regularly used. But in companies, you have to see different hooks, but those are all depending on different third parties. So React provides several predefined hooks and also allows to create custom hooks. It provides several predefined hooks and also allows to create custom hooks. You can create your own hooks and you can use them. So React 17 and higher versions allow hooks. So actually introduced hooks, you can say. Introduced hooks. Introduced hooks. And React hooks can be used only in function components. Can be used only in function components. You cannot use anywhere else. That means class components cannot use these hooks. This is only for function components. Only for function components. Why? That reason also you will understand. So we will discuss about that when we learn about class concept. It's very simple point because you learnt about JavaScript 2 concept. In JavaScript, we have a class. What are the members of a class? A class can have. What are the members of a class? A class can have a property. A class can have an accessor. A class can have a constructor. A class can have a method. These are only the class members. Can a function be a class member? Can you have a JavaScript function as class member? Not possible. Can you have a variable as class member? Not possible. You know classes. If a function is not allowed as a class member, how hooks will work? Hook is a function. Hook is a function. If a function is not allowed in a class, then how a class can use these hooks? So hooks are not allowed in classes. You cannot use these hooks in classes. They are only for function. They are only for function. That means this may be a question sometimes. They ask like, why can't we use hooks in a class? How you simply say they are not allowed? What is reason? The reason is simple. We know basic of class. Class will not allow functions as class members. In that case, it's not possible. We can't use these hooks in classes. They are only in which components you can use function components. Now, if you want to create hooks, then we have to follow certain rules for creating hooks. So, rules of creating and using the hooks, some important basic things we have to know. So, first important is hook must be a JavaScript function. JavaScript function. That is the first basic point. And it cannot be void type. What does it means? It cannot be void type. That means it must return a value. It must return a value. That means it must be defined with a return type. It must be defined with a return type. Hook must be a JavaScript function and it cannot be void type. Means it must return. Return is compulsory. It must return. It must be defined with a return type. That means you should know what it is going to return. It can return string, array, function, anything it can return, but it must have a return. You cannot have a void. Another important is it must be used always at a higher hierarchy. Higher hierarchy. It must be used always at higher hierarchy. What does this means? Always at higher hierarchy means you cannot use a hook inside any another function. It is always used in a higher hierarchy outside. You cannot define this in any another. For example, all these days you saw at higher hierarchy only it should be there. Suppose you have a component, function component. Suppose there is a component. In this there is use effect. Use effect is a hook. In this use effect hook, we want to use some state. Now, how to declare a state? Suppose I am declaring a state, constant state. So set is equal to use state like this. So this is invalid because it should be outside any function. It cannot be inside any function, not only use effect. Suppose you are writing like a component is there. You are writing like a function as handle click. In this function, you directly try to create a constant, some ABC is equal to use hook something. This is invalid. You cannot use it. Hooks must be at a higher hierarchy. You cannot use in any another function. Means you cannot configure in any another function. That's very important. So that means this is configuring at global scope, you can say. Configuring at global scope allowed. So inside any another function you cannot define that. Yeah. Now technically, traditionally, must be, it must be in camel case representation. Component cannot be in camel case. Component must be, component must be in we call as Pascal case actually. Pascal case is nothing but first letter caps. First letter must be caps. Mandatory, that is. So usually people may call it as a sentence case. Means first letter is caps. Title means every word first letter is caps. So usually here the hooks are in camel case. Majority you have seen all hooks are in camel case, right? So when you are designing a hook, these are all the basic rules for a hook. The basic rules for a hook. Let's see how we can create a hook. Means how we can create a custom hook by using some basic points. First we will see our own hooks, how they create. Then you can see how to use the ready-made hooks given by them. Let's see. Now we have suppose here, okay, in the components I am creating a component called login. Already exists. I think already login is there. Yeah, there is some login component already there. Okay, then in that case I will keep it in the startup. I have a login component. We will keep it in the startup. There is a login component. Okay. Now what we want is, let's start our project. Okay, it is running. In this login component, this is the login component. Yeah. In this login component, user login, username, password, login button is there. And here I will put a data term. I say verify code. And here I want to generate a random code, a 6-digit, some random code should come. And I want that everywhere. In registration, in user login, in admin login, everywhere I want that functionality. Then everywhere you cannot write a logic for that. So then what we do? We will now here, you see this is login. And we want a random code to be generated there. And we want in every form. Every form we design, we need it. Then what we will do here, let's go to our project. In SRC folder, in the SRC folder, we will maintain a separate folder called hooks. That is the folder. In SRC folder, we will create a hooks folder. And here I will add a hook called captcha.js. That is captcha. Usually we can create hooks as functions which we can import and use. Generally function means it's not a component. It's function means business logic means it contains logic, not the presentation. What is JSX? JSX is an element, so which will render some markup and all. So here we are just using captcha.js because here only logic, business logic. So when to use JS, when to use JSX? If it is a component, you use JSX. If it is a library with a set of values or functions or classes which you have to import and use in various components, then it is a module. You know, JS is a module now. Generally, JavaScript file is considered as a module, right? Now here we have to configure export function, because in any module you write a function is not accessible outside. It's mandatory that export, and we will use the function name as use captcha. Use captcha is a function. As per the rules of a hook, every hook must return value. It is mandatory. That means currently it is void, it is invalid. A hook cannot be void, it is void type, it is not valid. So we will create a code. We will create a code which is string type, and we will return this code. We will return this code. That means now the function is returning a string. It must be defined with a return type. And here, this code should generate a random code. So what we will do is, so we will create here var a is equal to, so we are defining math dot random. It generates a random number multiplied by 10, because random number in JavaScript it will be 0.0776. It starts like that. So we need 1, 2, 3 like random numbers. Okay, like this, a 6-digit random number we will do. So A, B, C, D, E, F. And what we will do is into this code we will combine this by using math.round that number A, because usually again a fractional value will come 1.7. No, I want 1.8. 1.7 means it should be 2. Then this is B, this is C, this is nothing but a string D and E and F. That means it is a string with a combination of 6-digit random number, and it is returning this random. Now this is the hook that we have, and we want to use this hook in any application. We want to use this hook in a login screen. Then first we will import the hook. So import, what is it? Use captcha. Use captcha. Captcha from where you have to import. So it is present in some other location, dot slash. So hooks are no. Again dot slash. It is in hooks. In this captcha, that's where we have to import. And now here we will create a constant, and into the constant we get the code, and we will use that captcha hook there. And this code is a random code which we will present here. So here we will get the code and put that code here. That means it is going to get a code here. And whenever you reload it, it will get a new code here. Whenever you reload it, it will get a new code here. Every time a new code will come. Of course, you can put a refresh button here and click again, the code can be new. So this is not captcha. We just learned about the concept of hook. How you can simplify your business logic and how you can inject and use across components. Like this, you will see so many hooks in your projects and you will never find any help about them on Google. You have to go through your project documentation only, because you will not find those hooks anywhere, because there is no hook by that. They are all created by them. So these are custom hooks. For example, anything you can design. Suppose I want, our regular task is connecting with the API, getting the data from API and using the data. For that, what we were using? We were using Axios, get method everywhere. So fetch, Axios everywhere. So if your job in your application is very regular with APIs, connecting, communicating with APIs, then you can create a hook for that. You can create a hook which can communicate with API, makes AJAX call, gets the data and returns the data. In every component, it is not necessary to write the logic of connecting with APIs. Then how do you do that? Let's see here. I am going here and adding another one in this hooks. Let's add another hook. This is like a API hook, like get API .js. Get API.js here. This is the file. Now here we are creating export function, and the function is actually use API. That is the function. Use API is a hook. And generally, when you are dealing with this hook, remember, a hook can be parameterized or parameterless. Previously, the hook is parameterless, but a hook can be parameterized. For example, have you seen when you used the use state, into that you can pass some value? When you used use formic, into that you can pass an object that contains options. That means it can be parameterized, it can take some parameters. That means it can be parameterized or parameterless. So that means a hook can be parameterized. So it can be parameterized or parameterless. So here the key point, if it is parameterized, then it must be configured with a event that mounts the hook again whenever parameter changes. This is very, very important. Otherwise, it don't work. So if it is a parameterized hook, then it must be configured with a event that mounts the hook again whenever parameter changes. Because if it is a parameterized hook, you will pass parameter. What happens now? First time when you pass the parameter, it will take it and use it. If there is any change in the parameter, it will not update. That means only one time it is going to execute. If there is any change, it is not going to update it. But hook should be in such a way that whenever new parameters are being passed, it should update itself every time. Because what is the purpose of parameter? To modify. And whenever any modification happened, it should update. It should reload it. But hooks will load only once. Because it is singleton pattern. Service is a singleton pattern. That means it is created for first request. And it is used same across any number of requests. But if any parameter changed, it should change. This is important now. So how you manage that? That means how you can do. Actually, use API. What it have to do is it should communicate with API. It should get the data from API. That means it should use an AJAX call. You may be thinking like how they designed Axios. How they designed Axios? Axios.get. How? How it is fetching the data? How it is fetching the data? In the background, it is using XML HTTP request. That means in the background, XML HTTP request. And whatever the URL you pass, you know how XML HTTP request works. I showed you all process. That means what it will do, HTTP is equal to new what? XML HTTP request object, then HTTP dot what? Open, right? And into this open, this value it will pass. Means internally it is using the XML HTTP. Any API, any AJAX call in the world finally have to use XML HTTP request, because browser can understand AJAX calls only through that object. No other object can handle AJAX call in a browser. No chance. In that case, any third party have to finally use it internally. So you are not directly using XML HTTP, but it is XML HTTP. That means you are using a simplified hook, because using XML HTTP lengthy process. You have to use open, you have to send, you have to use ready state, on ready state change. But here everything is written just by with get. By get. That means now how we design here. We will create a constant. In hooks you can use hooks. In hooks you can use hooks. That means I am using a constant data, set data, and it is a use state. It is a use state. And what we will do here, we will use effect. Use effect defines what to happen on mount. And this API should take URL. Use API must take the URL. It must take the URL. And this URL we have to fetch. And here on use effect, we are fetching it. That means we will use fetch here. Fetch URL and what it has to do, then get the response and return the response to JSON, and get the then get the data, some content. Suppose some this is like content, and we will put that in set data. Into the set data we will pass the content. That means now data, and then data is the location where this entire data is kept, and as per the rules this should return some value. As per the rules it should return some value. Currently it is void. So what it should return? It should return the data. That means whatever data it collects from the URL, it is going to return the data. Now you passed an URL, it returns the data. Some change happened in this URL, it will not update. Why? Because this use effect executes how many times? Only one time. And how you can make it to execute again? Then you know the dependency is URL. Now the dependency comes. Dependency is URL means what? Whenever any change happened in the URL they pass, then load again. What is dependency used for in use effect? Dependency says when it should load again. Empty dependencies means don't load again, load only once. Dependency means load again when there is a change in certain value. Which value you are? There can be multiple dependencies. It is an array type. It is an array type. You can have more than one dependencies. You can have more than one parameters, doesn't matter. You can have more than one parameter, any type of parameter, object type, array type, anything. So now this is the custom hook called use API. Now I want to fetch the data from in any component. I want to fetch the data from anywhere. For example, here what we are doing, suppose we are creating just roughly something like data term. So select category and the data definition. Here we will put a select. And what we want to do here is we will import another hook here. And what is the hook we have to use? So we have to import use API hook from the hooks. And what we will do here, so we will create a reference. So in that reference, so suppose I said constant, and what it is some categories. Categories is equal to use API, and it is expecting URL http:// fakestore.api.com/products/ what categories. That means this is HTTP. Yes, actually. Yeah. Now it is expecting the data. Now that categories is the data. Now you see here, I defined and I am using categories. Categories dot what map. I am reading every category, and for every category, so we are presenting an option. For every category, we are creating an option. So here we will define the category. So with a key that have the category. That means now we are fetching the data and using it here. And this time, like Axios, we have our own hook here that is called use API. That's simple. That means you don't need to write all the logic. You just use this hook. And if I Google like what is use API, where you will get this, there is nothing like use API. So because these are all custom hooks, right? How you configure your hooks and use them, right? This is basic of custom hooks. So I will give one example for that. So here, what is the first thing we done? Add a new folder into SRC by name hooks. So add following files into hooks folder. What are the files we have? So one is captcha.js. I will copy its code. This is the captcha. Another one is this is getapi.js. I created two files with these two things. That is. So now this is the option, and we will consume somewhere. So go to some login component. We already have this login.what.jsx. In this, we are injecting and importing those and using them. That is the basic of how we can handle the custom hooks. There are so many third-party such hooks. Now here, There are so many third-party hooks which you can implement and use. You saw while when we learnt about formic, use formic, when we learnt about React hook form, there we have a different hook, right? That means, so use former, there we have. So these are all predefined. Suppose hook form. In this hook form, you see, you used a hook here, use form hook. It's not a React native related hook. That means if anybody asks, do you know use form, use formic and all, how everybody knows about them? They don't know until or unless they use that third part. They are not React basic, right? These are all, that means you have used so many hooks, but some are not React related native library. So they are all third party hooks. We'll see some more here. So this is one important. Next important, so what are the various predefined hooks? That means React have so many predefined hooks. So React provides various predefined hooks with its core library. With its core library. So we have like use state. We have like use effect. We have like use memo. We have like use callback. We have like use ref. So use reducer, like use context. There are so many. These are all different types of predefined hooks. So different types of predefined hooks are available. Different categories of hooks are available. Now, usually, some of these already we use. Some of these hooks already we use, like use state, use effect, use reference. So others we will see. And remember here, some of the hooks, as I told you already, the features. The features of React are not the features to implement. They are for background process. React developed several new things, and those new things are not for any implementation. That is for background. For example, a car company says that we made modification in the front. That means facelift, right? That means, okay, I can see it. The face front lift, I can see it. They say that I made some changes in the engine to perform better. You can't see it. You can't ask them to show me. In a car showroom, you cannot go and say that, show me that engine feature. That's silly. In React, so many such features are there, which are not the features that you can see or you can try or you can give as an example. These features are built for internal performance to develop React, not for developers, right? That is the reason several features of React you cannot see practically. For example, see here. I will show you a basic point here. Suppose you search for React 18 features, new features, or you can visit the official website. They will give you, the official website is there, you see. So official website is this. Okay, React 18 new features we will take from the website. React 18. and see what these people tell you. Some concurrent react. Concurrent react. What is new? Concurrent react. And what officially they tell this? They say that concurrency is not a feature. It is behind the scenes mechanism. It is not a feature, it behind the scenes mechanism. Now nobody can ask like, sir, they introduced a concurrent feature, you haven't told us. Right? There is, please give one example on this. What you are talking about? That means you don't have a sense of technology. That means any behind the scene feature is not for implementation. It is to improve the performance of the technology. Behind the scenes, they improved it. These are all such features. That means React recently coming with so many features which are behind the scenes. Behind the scenes. Few are improved for developers, which we will see. We cannot see every feature, but we can understand. We have to know about it. What is this concurrency? What is this concurrency? It's not a new concept. Already several technologies are implementing, all modern technologies are using. Now React is newly introducing this concurrency. That means the point here is actually later you will learn about it. For example, if anybody asks like, what is the purpose of inheritance? The purpose of inheritance. In object-oriented programming, what is the purpose of inheritance? So inheritance is for code extensibility. You extend the code without disturbing the code. That means you can add new, that's how you learned now in JavaScript. What you do, class A extends what? B. What is it? It is extensibility. It is extending, right? Now the point here is, why you are extending? Why can't you make changes in A directly? That means we developed an app in that we give an A class and they are using that A class with some features. Now we want to add some more features into it. Then what developers do? They design a B class and they will inherit the A class. The old features will come here and they add the new feature into this B class and they will inject this into the app. Why don't they modify this one? Why they developed a new version without modifying the version? To achieve a concept called, we have 2 points. Why they develop new versions of a software? To achieve a concept called backward compatibility and to achieve a concept called side-by-side execution. These are the primary things of inheritance. To implement backward compatibility and side-by-side execution. What is meant by backward compatibility? That means even a new version is available, users can still use the old. That is backward compatibility. And what is side-by-side execution? Multiple versions of an application can run on same machine. That is concurrent React. Earlier, we don't have concurrency of React. Now they added this facility. That means earlier other technologies are having. That means multiple versions of same application can run on a server. For example, you are using Gmail. You want to attach some photo. Then they give an option, drag drop, you can attach. But drag drop can work if your internet connection speed is high. If your internet connection speed is low, drag drop cannot work because it's an advanced feature. Then if internet connection speed is slow, can't I attach my files? Still you can attach the file. There is a attach button. Click the button, select the file, load the file. That means why they have given two facilities for the same. This is concurrency of a task. Why one task two ways? Why one task two ways? Right? That means the point is, if drag drop is the easiest way, why to provide again a button? Because it cannot be used by everyone. So that is the concurrency. Web application need this very much in the modern. They cannot stick to a certain functionality. That's they improved in React 18. Now you cannot ask, show me this. Right, that is a feature they developed in their internal system which allows the React library to run two versions simultaneously. That's nothing to see outside anywhere. That is the concept of these actually features, how they work. Now based on that, several hooks are there. Those we don't need to discuss. We will just see practically. We have to just discuss them, right? Now in this we already learned use state. You already learned about use effect, but you should know some more about what they additionally have and use ref. Now others we will see, use reducer, use context, how they work. That we'll see tomorrow. In tomorrow's session we will discuss about the general hooks available with React. And if you can do this, now we are good with React function components. Now we have to go with class. How to use React with class components. It's a little different approach from now. That a different process, same examples, but class components means the various other techniques to design a component. That we'll see in next session. Tomorrow we'll continue. Okay, right.
पढ़बे ना करे ऐसी झूठों का जा रहा देख काम ना रे कुछ जितना किताब है पूरा रहा तरह पूछेगा मुझे याद आ गया हाँ ना रहा तो ना वो रह सकती है झूठों का जा रहा भीड़ लगावे
Yes, Ashwini, what is your doubt? Ashwini, yes, what is your doubt? You have any issues?
Yes, yesterday program, sir.
What is yesterday's program?
Sir, show me my screen.
What you have
Sure.
doubt?
Sir, which run to load in program? React hook or React grid?
What you are talking about? I am unable to understand. What concept you are talking about?
Yesterday.
Yesterday?
React hook and React grid.
React grid. Already we designed.
So it is not a load. How
it
to
is
load?
not working. It is not working for you.
Yes.
Show me where is the issue. Share your screen, we'll see.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Which one? Grid is not working or navbar not working?
Yes, yes.
Which one is not working? Both are not working.
Sir, the progress demo new file created grid or navbar. So this have to load progress or React grid navbar.
In this component you have to import them. Already you imported now.
Sir, index.js progress demo, it is imported.
And then in progress demo you have to use it.
Progress demo. But I've created other progress grid or nav demo.
Then make them in startup. These are components, na?
Oh. So
which one you want to run? Put that in index startup.
This.
Then put that in startup. That navbar, that navbar you haven't designed for running navbar. You have to use it in another component.
Yes.
Understood? You
no, sir.
Currently, which one is running progress demo?
Yes.
Go to progress demo. Progress demo.jsx. Go to progress demo.jsx.
Sir, this.
Its path is wrong. Go to progress demo.jsx.
Yes.
That is currently running.
Yes.
In this, where you are using navbar. Put that navbar there. Write the logic for that